I've collated some classic JDM car brochures and then pulled out the 7 weirdest and coolest factory original parts and options I could find, translated them from Japanese to English, and then put them into a list for comparison, with the first on the list, the Wing Robo, a factory original spoiler that featured as a multi-stage, in-cabin, remote-controlled spoiler. Tommykaira has to make some of the coolest looking, or in this case, functioning spoilers. This car used the Nissan Silvia as a platform, but no longer a Nissan, as the Tommykaira Silvia. Here we can see the 2 selections of Tommykaira wings. On the right, we have the tail fin, which looks pretty cool, a bit pricey, but worth it. But on the left, Wing Robo. As it featured in the Aero Parts and Modifications catalogue, you could also purchase and order it directly from Tommykaira onto different models that didn't feature it in their brochure. So was this part actually their creation, collaborated or outsourced? You can actually see it appearing on one of BMW's old third-party performance divisions, Hartke. I don't know heaps about Euros, but Hartke is another heavy tuner, also granted car manufacturer like Tommykaira. I guess also like what AMG was. And here we see Wing Robo used on their factory modified, no longer BMW. Euro fans might shoot me for saying this, but Beamers look unreal with JDM style body kits and spoilers. So the cost on this part was enormous. If you bought Wing Robo on your Tommykaira S13, more than 1/10 of the cost of the car was on the spoiler alone, over $2,000 in 1989. So what does that mean by today's money standards? I put this through an inflation calculator, and to give it some perspective to if you bought it new today, $5,711 to have it as a factory original part. So I'm making a tier ranking list out of these parts, and I hate to start with an S tier part, but it has to be. This is as classic JDM as it gets. I could understand you dissing this part because it would be unbelievably heavy and it's so expensive, but I love it. This represents Japan's gadgets and electronics that they pioneered for the rest of the world and in years to come, and could possibly be some of the earliest active aeros, or at least in the Japanese domestic market. And so I did straight away go and search for this part in Japan, but unfortunately, unexpectedly, it's discontinued. But as I always get way too distracted when browsing Japanese auctions, I spotted these R34 Tommykaira seats here for sale. And the real star of the show is this thing right here. This is not a Nissan 300Z. This is a Tommykaira M30Z waiting to be auctioned. Their poster child in 1991. If you walked into a Tomita dealership in 1991, the car directly at the front door of their dealership, the M30Z, today it looks a little tired and forgotten about, despite for its time having supercar-like performance, OEM 350 horsepower in 1991. And guess how much it costs as buy now? $25,000. I'll just leave that sit with you. And factory part number 6, the WRC Type Roof Ventilator, which is how it translates, or as I like to call it, the Subaru Roof Scoop, or I suppose technically more of a ventilator flap. Subaru is almost always going to make it onto these lists. They were extremely experimental during the 90s with factory option parts. This factory modification likely took its roots from meeting homologation requirement, where if your road going factory car had a part on it for road use, it then qualified as a racing legal modification. Much like what we saw in the last video with the Honda NSX R GT model having a Formula 1 style intake, which actually did nothing more than be a non-functional rear hatch garnish, so they could use the part on their technically road going but true purpose race cars. Thanks for the in-depth comments on this topic in the last video. Great information there. But it wasn't all about homologation. They were popular amongst JDM spec WRXs and didn't just feature on the Type RA and R model. They often went hand in hand with other factory mods that I might mention in the next video, like factory AC or air conditioner delete. You still need airflow to cool down, and with these WRC roof ventilators, you could choose whether to be colder and open it up, or fold the ventilator flat and you've got no aero drag from the scoop. Additionally, it creates a positive pressure zone inside the cabin, which ultimately keeps dust and dirt out. So can we find these for sale in Japan? And the answer is yes. Yes, we can. Here's this one here. It's just the insert. You can see the interior component, the handle, the seal, and then the exterior, I guess. Diagram explaining it. And then I also saved this one here, which interestingly has like these little twist vents in between you and the outside atmosphere, which is probably not a bad idea. It looks a bit worn, but that's what you can expect if it's a genuine part. And then lastly, this one just had like a lot of good links showing how many different people are actually selling this. They were offered on the coupe, sedan, and wagon, but not the convertible Impreza because it had no roof. But there's a whole nother video needed to talk about that. So it's practical. You can just flap it down if you don't like it or don't want it. And it's pretty exclusively Jap spec. I want to put it higher, but I understand I get way too excited about Subarus. So B tier just under the S201 spoiler. While on the Subaru topic, we move on to the next part. You've probably heard of the Mitsubishi Evo 6.5 TME or Tommy Mackinnon edition. Maybe aware of its color decal and sticker package. But what has completely flown under the radar of JDM enthusiasts this is Subaru's Decal Package. Only available as an option to a production run of 500 cars and named after the cigarette and tobacco company sponsorship deal of the 90s, 3-stage 555, the Subaru Impreza WRX STI 555 and its optional extra sticker pack. This is a full rally spec sticker package, littering your car with 555 tobacco sponsorship decals, just like the WRC car of its time. And decals even include names like Carlos Sainz and Colin McRae. And to top it all off, comes with 555 tobacco sponsored mud flaps and badging. The fact that Subarus and vaping became a meme in the 2000s makes this even more of a weird option, that Subarus were associated with smoking tobacco in the 90s. There are various other options on this limited edition model like aluminum wheels and special edition seats. So if you want me to break down this limited edition car brochure with translations of details and specs, let me know. Only 3 videos ago I had 77 subscribers, so thanks to all the JDM legends that have subscribed to my channel. And just before we move to the tiers list, I noticed right before recording this video that 3 555 packet colors are blue and gold. What else is blue and gold? Almost every iconic Subaru that followed with its blue and gold wheels. How crazy is it to think that the decision of the color coding on a packet of cigarettes roughly a century before a rally sponsorship deal determined the final edition WRX STI's poster color package all those years later. And then just lastly, mentioning the German model, the Impreza 4-wheel drive GT Turbo, which also had the 555 sticker package. But at this point in time, cigarette companies have been banned from motorsport sponsorship deals, so there's just the 3 dashes. And then this one isn't official, but someone from New Zealand cut up a bug eye into a ute that looks really good. I'd be surprised if this is Photoshop because this is from my old Godzilla Returns 2002 Wheels magazine, back when Photoshop was virtually non-existent. If this had have released as a full model, it would have been so popular down under in Australia. Anyway, so moving across the tiers list, and in my opinion, in the context of unique, it doesn't get better than this. You'll probably spend your whole life driving the car around, explaining to everyone, no, I didn't plaster my car in stickers, and yes, it came from factory like this, but I'm over normal flashy cars. I want a 555 WRX, A tier. So next at number 4, we revisit the Affinity luxury branded Mazda RX-7, or technically Affinity RX-7, with the optional selection brochure. This brochure might feel familiar as we looked at it last time with the brochure option Nardi racing shoes, and there's actually another Nardi racing piece of apparel just next to it with the Nardi racing gloves. So for anyone who doesn't know what Nardi is, they're a brand most known for their epic steering wheels on so many known JDM heroes. If you've spotted this little symbol on a JDM, that's the Nardi brand. From Mazda RX-7s, MX-5s, various Mitsubishi Rally models, was even spotted on the Tommykaira Silvia, modeled the M18 and M20. So a pretty legendary brand, and apparently they sold as a factory Mazda Affinity option racing gloves. So these cost 10,000 yen, or by today's conversion, roughly $70 US, all the way back in 1993. They were made in both medium and large by translation and are made of calf skin leather. I got crucified in my last video for putting the Nardi racing shoes as a D tier item. I didn't think I'd fit in them. So I don't want to give in to peer pressure here, but gloves are more universal in size. And with every comment telling me how cool the shoes are, I'm happy to nudge a little into C tier. So moving across to the Toyota Supra Mark IV in the original accessories catalog of 1993, and we have the Toyota Supra Koala Chan and Koala Chan Jr. baby seat. Baby seats are far from ideal in Mark IV Supras. I've taken 2 of my babies in the back of my old Mark IV Supra to a JDM car meet, and there is no room, literally zero. The car may as well be listed as a 2-seater. It was a nightmare. It's unusual, weird, and in the Toyota Supra, not functional at all. If you had the Toyota Chaser baby seat, or maybe another more practical JDM legend, like this comment from subscriber Sush Pants and his or hers Corolla FX GT with the baby seat option, or here in this brochure, the 1978 Pulsar with the baby seat, may be different, but in the Supra, it's a no from me, even though I would probably buy one if I got the opportunity. If this isn't D tier, I don't know what is. Sorry to my fellow Supra fans, and sorry to Koala Chan, the baby seat, but these don't mix in any universe. And just before we move on, I did actually find a Toyota genuine Koala Chan seat for sale, or it had just sold, in really decent condition. It was listed as a little worn, but it was owned by a grandpa for his grandson, and it even came with the original instruction manual. The description said, "My grandson was happy to be wrapped in the koala's face, ears and hands." Classic. And he was pretty much happy to give it away for $20 US because he'd already created his good memories. How good is that? The next optional extra part, at number 2, needs to redeem the Toyota with the TRD or Toyota Racing Development optional extra Type R wing. You've probably heard of the TRD wing. Think of this wing, adjustable in wing angle, pretty iconic. But what you might not have heard of was the part offered directly alongside it that it seems no one bought, the TRD Type R. It was in the TRD Sports and Parts catalogue of 1998 and showcased on the TRD 3000 GT. I like to think of this car as kind of like the Nismo Z-Tune or the Subaru WRX 22B of the Toyota Supra world. So if you feel like this spoiler is familiar, it looks like it appears on the Too Fast Too Furious Supra, but there's a lot going on with this Supra, so it's easy to miss. So the Type R had a racing oriented fixed angle, not adjustable, and the wing cost the same amount as the Type S spoiler. So for the tiers list, it's tough to know where to put it. Fixed angle, it looks a little weird, but does grow on you. I'm going to put it as high as B tier just because it's TRD and it must be insanely rare, as I feel like it only exists in the catalogue. And lastly, we go back the whole way to the 70s with the 1978 Nissan Pulsar and its really weird advertising. Moving past that, a factory fitted full grandpa spec tissue box holder. Are you tired of your tissue box sliding around in the backseat of your Nissan Pulsar while power sliding? Nissan's got you covered. Box saucer. It's a box saucer for the rear seat tray. It's a spot where the tissue box fits perfect, equipped in all cars. This brochure has some solid material in it. I love that you can almost feel what era each type of brochure is from. Like there's hallmarks and vibes of each generational era in part. Like the Pulsar's one button touch FM radio being a design feature worth listing, or the air conditioning being reliable and consistent with indoor temperatures as a standard feature worth boasting about. These design features disappear as you come into the modern era. Across to the tiers list, while it's classic grandpa spec on the old Pulsar, it's a bit too much of a novelty that you can't really see. So to put it much higher than C tier on the list would be criminal. What do you think of where I put everything? Do you agree? There's an earlier episode to this that you might enjoy if you're looking for something else to watch. Thanks everyone, and see you in the next video.